Kids at the table during lunch period laughed at Noah. The blonde's face burned red. He stared at his tray while trying to hold back tears during his school lunch. I stood up slowly, calmly. "Say another word," I told her, "and you'll regret it every time you walk into this room." She laughed, nervous, thin, and looked away. Teachers saw everything. They did nothing except watch and whisper and write notes in files that would follow us for years. School was miserable for boys like Noah who couldn't conform and who had too much integrity and individualism to be a generic student. Ever since my 15th birthday, when Jay attacked me in the shower, I can't stand water. Faucets, shower heads, even puddles, anything wet makes my chest tighten and my stomach twist. I try to tell myself it's just water, but my body doesn't listen. It remembers everything I can't forget. It started on my birthday. That day, I can still feel it. The sound of splashing, the sharp shock of cold against my skin. I froze, unsure of what to do. I tried to move and no one stopped it. I couldn't. And ever since the second water touches me, my lungs seize, my mind races, and panic claws at me like a thing alive. I can't shower anymore, can't feel the warm stream of water running down, can't stand the spray or the drip. I endure. Sponge baths, wet wipes, and changing clothes too often. Anything to feel clean without confronting the terror. It's frustrating. I hate that something so simple can control me, but it does. It always will until I decide otherwise. And maybe one day I'll try again, but not today. The conversation started innocently enough. We were all sitting in the living room after dinner, laughter and clinking plates in the background, but Mom let it slip. "They bathe together," she said, voice low, almost guilty, "even now at 14. Time stopped, my chest tightened. Noah went pale beside me. Uncle Joey's eyes widened. 14, he said, voice sharp like someone had punched him in the gut. They, what, together in the shower? Aunt Julia leaned forward, hands clasped tightly. Is that normal? I wanted to laugh. I wanted to explain it was nothing, that it had always been about comfort and habit. But I didn't. I just kept my jaw tight and Noah's hand under the table. Uncle Joey's face twisted. That's inappropriate at 14 with no supervision. How do you even? What were you and Terrence thinking? I could feel Noah trembling beside me. He tried to shrink, tried to make himself invisible. Typical Noah. Mom defended us weakly. It isn't sexual, it was just, they've always been close, you know how they are. Uncle Joey snorted, disbelief written all over his face. Close at 14, there's a line between two boys, that's past it, that's wrong. I clenched my fists under the table. Noah didn't speak. He never did when the adults got this judgmental. He just waited, shoulders hunched, cheeks red. I wanted to tell them they didn't understand, that nothing had ever happened and never would. But what was the point? They'd already decided, already labeled, already whispered the words inappropriate, weird, and unhealthy in my mind. I just sat there holding Noah's hand tight, knowing that no explanation would matter. No defense would reach them. All I could do was keep him close, always. The day finally came. Noah's 18th. I could barely sit still. At breakfast, I let my foot brush against his under the table, teasing just enough for him to glance at me, cheeks faintly pink. He caught it immediately, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. Your party's going to rock, I whispered under my breath. He didn't respond, but the way Noah pressed his foot back against mine told me he believed it, or at least wanted to. Later, I slipped out to drop off my possessions at the storage container on the west side of town. The car was cold at first, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. The storage unit outside town waited. Inside it was everything, the blackmail evidence, the letters, the reminders of the last time I'd dissociated, and the world felt like it was closing in. I parked, heart thudding against my ribs, and carried the envelope inside. The lock clicked shut behind me, loud and final. I slid the letter on top of the files and straightened it carefully. The evidence was there, safe, waiting like I was. I leaned against the wall for a moment, taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of the years, the secret, and the control I had finally asserted. Nobody could touch it now. Nobody could touch us. Then I drove back, thinking about Noah in his room, about how he'd smile when I walked in, completely unaware of the small storm I'd just deposited in that storage unit. The world outside could burn. Inside my car, inside our bubble, it was just him and me. I never remembered what I wrote in those letters, not really. It was a mystery I didn't want to know, something buried in the part of my mind I didn't visit. The storage unit had them now, and that was enough. Some things are safer left unread. Emily was coming to Noah's party tonight. I invited her for a reason. I needed to get laid. That part of me never changed, no matter the chaos of birthdays or the obsessive care I gave Noah. It was like a pressure valve, a way to remind myself I was still me. Birthdays had always been hard on me. Since I was a kid, they brought the same gnawing anxiety, the constant reminder of time moving forward, of obligations I couldn't escape. Add Noah into the mix, the way he clung to me, the way everyone seemed to watch him like a prize, it amplified everything. I ran a hand through my hair in the mirror, checking my expression. Calm, collected, nobody could know how close I teetered on the edge. I didn't want anyone to see the tightness in my chest, the tension in my hands. Emily arrived, cheerful and unaware of the weight hanging in the room. She smiled at me, leaned in. Ready for tonight? Always, I said, letting the words carry more than they should. It's going to be interesting. Noah was upstairs in my room getting ready, walking off his anxiety, probably nervous. I could feel his energy through the floorboards. I'd have to calm him, hold him close, make him forget the world outside. That was my job tonight. Protecting him, controlling the night, keeping him tethered to me. And if Emily got what she wanted in the process, that was just collateral. I glanced at the clock. The party was almost starting, almost perfect. Noah arrived, but something was off. His shoulders slumped, his eyes downcast, like he'd carried a weight all the way here and didn't know how to set it down. His usual spark was missing. I grabbed my guitar from the corner and handed it to him. Here, I said, play something, you always love it. He took it reluctantly, fingers brushing the strings. I don't know if I can tonight, he mumbled. You can, I said firmly, resting a hand on his shoulder. Just like old times, nobody's watching except me, you okay with that? He glanced at me, a little red creeping onto his cheeks. Yeah, I guess. I leaned closer. Good play, I want to hear you. He strummed softly, the notes filling the living room. I could tell it was more about soothing himself than performing. I crouched beside him, letting my presence anchor him. Mom walked in, pointing toward the driveway. Noah, look at your new green car. I saw it before he did, a luxury model gleaming in the sunlight. Way too fancy. I kind of liked it, but I didn't care. Noah barely looked. It's nice, he said, voice small, like he didn't know how to feel about anything tonight. I nudged him gently. You don't have to care, you have the guitar, that's all that matters. Mom smiled. Tate, you should have seen his face when he opened it. He's going to be so proud. I leaned closer, whispering, don't let anyone steal your focus tonight, just play. He strummed a little louder and I could see some of the tension leave his shoulders. Then he looked at me, tentative. Tate, do you think people will like me tonight? I shook my head. Forget everyone else, they don't matter, I've got you, just stay close to me if you need. I'll make sure no one bothers you. He leaned a little into me, fingers still on the strings. Thanks, I don't know what I'd do without you. Don't think about that, I said softly, resting my hand over his. You won't have to, I'm not going anywhere. And just for a moment, as he played and I watched, the world outside the room, the luxury car, the guests arriving, the birthday chaos didn't exist. There was just him, me, and the quiet strumming that made everything feel safe. Noah had been quiet all evening, strumming my guitar, lost in thought. I could see he was tense, still carrying the weight of the year. Weird attention, all the old fears. Upstairs, a girl I think he liked, older, confident, and kind, noticed and started talking to him. I stayed out of sight, just watching. Slowly his shoulders relaxed, his laugh came easier, and the small, shy smiles he'd been hiding all night began to surface. He needed a calm atmosphere where his body could be safe after a long day. The girl from USC was a way for Noah to lose his virginity on his terms. Maybe I chose wrong or shouldn't have involved myself, but I just wanted Noah to be happy. Noah needed to have fun while he was still young. Noah was shy, hesitant, and not social. I wanted to help, and she seemed like an excellent way to make Noah's birthday special. Noah later lied about losing his virginity that night. I fucked Emily to get over Noah's lies and deception. The bedroom door swung shut behind us, the party thumping faintly from downstairs like a distant heartbeat. Emily's hand was already tugging at my shirt, her breath hot against my neck as I backed toward the bed, the one I shared with Noah. I'd planned this detour while he was with his chosen girl, steal a moment with her, make it count before he got back. The sheets were rumpled from earlier lounging, the moonlight filtering through the half-open blinds casting shadows that danced over her curves. She pushed me down onto the mattress first, climbing on top with a grin that promised trouble. But I wanted more control. I rolled us over, pinning her beneath me on the soft bedding, her legs wrapping around my waist instinctively. No time for games. While I fucked Emily to blow off steam about Noah's lies, I didn't know that Noah hadn't stayed in the spare room while I was in my bedroom. Unbeknownst to me, the door was ajar, just a crack from when we'd stumbled in 10 minutes earlier. Noah had returned sooner than expected, hearing the commotion from the hall. The blonde paused, peeking through, his breath catching at the sight, me railing Emily's ass on our bed. Noah instantly felt a mix of shock and devastation flooding him, but he backed away quietly in the hallway, the image searing into his thoughts, fueling the fire for later. I didn't notice a thing, not the boy I loved who was secretly in love with me, crying as his heart shattered into a million unfixable pieces outside my bedroom door. I was lost in the rhythm of teenage angst and hormonal sex drive. Emily and I sat like that on my bed longer than either of us admitted. The party noise thinned out upstairs, laughter drifting down in fragments. At some point, Emily shifted, muttered something about grabbing a soda, and slipped out of my peripheral vision. I didn't think anything of it at first. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I only fucked Emily because Noah had lied about losing his virginity with Tiffany, and I just wanted to blow off some steam with a girl. I couldn't believe that Noah had lied. The blonde had never lied to me before, and I never would have believed it if one of the jocks hadn't told me. I stood, scanning the room. The guitar from Joey was still on the couch where he'd left it, strings humming faintly like they'd been touched too recently. Noah, I called casual at first, nothing. I checked the kitchen, empty. The hallway bathroom light was off. His shoes were still by the door, which made my chest tighten in a way I didn't like. Okay, I muttered, not funny. I took the stairs 2 at a time, irritation bleeding into unease. I opened bedroom doors, peeked into the study, and checked the guest room. People were still mingling upstairs, drunk and loud and oblivious. Noah, I said again, sharper now. Someone bumped into me and asked if I needed a drink. I shoved past them. I checked the backyard, the pool area, and the side gate, still nothing. My heart started doing that thing, fast, uneven, and wrong. I went back inside and grabbed my jacket. His phone wasn't on the counter. My stomach dropped. Has anyone seen Noah? I asked too loudly. A few heads shook. Someone said, thought he left with that girl. Another shrugged. No one was sure. No one had paid attention. That made me furious. It was midnight. I ran through the house again, opening doors harder this time, calling his name like I could drag him back by sound alone. My room is empty, his room bed untouched, window closed. He was just gone. I stood in the middle of the hallway, breath shallow, ears ringing, the party noise blurred into static. I pulled out my phone and dialed him, straight to voicemail. Noah, I said into the empty space, quieter now, as if I lowered my voice he might hear me wherever he was. This isn't funny, call me, right now. Nothing. I felt it then, the cold certainty settling in my gut, the same one I got when something precious slipped out of my control. And Noah was never supposed to leave my sight. Tony from Chem caught my sleeve as I stormed past the stairwell. Hey Tate, great party tonight. I saw Noah, he said, voice low like he wasn't sure he should be involved. My heart slammed. Where? 10 minutes ago, he ran downstairs, upset, crying, and bolted straight out the front door, alone. That was all I needed. I was already moving, shoving through the front door into the cold night air. The driveway was empty, no car, no bike, just the echo of party noise bleeding out behind me like it didn't matter anymore. Why was Noah crying on his special day? Why did he leave in the middle of his party that I had thrown for him because everyone was having so much fun? Maybe his mom called or someone was mean to him. Noah, I yelled, scanning the street. Nothing. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know why Noah had left the party. The last time I saw him, he looked fine. Happy, smiling even. Nothing about him gave me a warning that something was off. And then he was just gone. At first, I thought maybe he went outside for air. Maybe he got overwhelmed like people sometimes do when the house is full and loud and too many things are happening at once. But hours passed, That whole night and morning passed and he didn't come back to the blue house or call me on my mobile. By the time it was close to 2 in the morning, I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I was just moving. Driving around town, checking places without even fully deciding to check them. Like my body had taken over because my brain didn't want to accept what was happening. His mom's trailer was the first place I went. Empty, his mom was working on his special day instead of attending the most important birthday of Noah's life. No lights on, no sign of him. I remember standing there longer than I should have, just staring at the dark windows as if I waited long enough something would change. It didn't. I tried everywhere after that. Streets I knew he liked, places he sometimes wandered when he needed space, anywhere that made sense in my head. Nothing. Noah wasn't anywhere. And that's when it started to sink in. He hadn't just stepped out. He had left. I didn't know how to process that. Because Noah didn't do that. Not like this, not without saying something, not without a reason I could understand. And the worst part wasn't just that I couldn't find him. It was that I couldn't reach him. No calls, no response, no direction. Just silence where he was supposed to be. And for the first time that night, I wasn't thinking about where he went. I was thinking about what I did wrong before he disappeared. I checked everywhere he would go when his head got like this. The corner store where he bought soda even when we had plenty at home. The park near the old cinema where he liked to sit on the swings and think. The library steps, the alley behind the music shop, the place by the creek he pretended didn't scare him, the ice cream shop where Joey would take us whenever he visited us from Arizona. Nothing. My hands were slick on the steering wheel. I kept glancing at the clock on the dash, counting minutes like they were sins. Noah had to be at the blue home. He had to be. Tonight mattered, tonight couldn't go wrong. Mom was supposed to give him the files, the adoption paperwork, the name change, the future wrapped neatly in manila folders. Everything I'd lined up so carefully, everything he deserved. I pulled back into the family driveway too fast and ran inside. Noah, my voice cracked this time, I didn't care who heard. Mom was in the living room, calm, composed, holding a thick folder against her chest. That made my stomach drop straight through the floor. Where is he? I asked. She frowned. I thought he was with you. No, I snapped. Where is he? Her eyes flicked down to the folder, then back up to me. He hasn't come back yet. I was waiting. Waiting. I felt something cold spread through my ribs. You didn't give the adoption paperwork to him yet. She shook her head slowly. I wanted us all together. I backed away like the room was tilting. He was supposed to be here for that, he needed to be here for that. I pulled my phone out again, hands shaking, and dialed him for the 10th time. Straight to voicemail. Noah, I said, barely breathing now, please, wherever you are, just come home, you're supposed to be here, I'm right here. I ended the call and stared at the landline phone, willing it to light up. It didn't. Talia was upset because she couldn't give Noah the adoption papers, and the party was almost over. She had wanted to make the announcement publicly, but with Noah missing she couldn't. Talia put the folder back in her briefcase and chose to wait until the blonde returned home in a few hours. Talia wondered if Tate had done something to upset Noah, or if one of the insensitive guests had mentioned something that caused Noah to leave. And for the first time all night, a thought slipped into Tate's mind that I didn't want to name. What if he left because he knew something was coming and didn't want it anymore? I couldn't sleep without him there. The bed felt wrong, too wide and too quiet. I lay on my side facing his empty pillow, listening for footsteps that never came, replaying the night until dawn bled through the curtains. Every creak made my chest jump, every minute stretched. I was terrified to close my eyes, and the hours slowly reached morning without any resolution. I found out later, when Noah had returned to pick up boxes almost 2 weeks after he had fled his party, that Mom had decided to hold off on the adoption announcement until the issues between Noah and me were resolved. Mom appeared at the end of the hall, but the folder was still on the table behind her like a secret that had missed its cue. Noah glanced past me, saw it, and something flickered across his face, hurt, maybe, or guilt. He looked away. Noah, once I finally captured him in our living room 2 weeks later, I tried to get him to come to bed. I even reminded him about it on his birthday and the happy memories we had. Happy birthday, I said finally, the words tasting wrong. Thanks, he murmured. He didn't come back to bed with me, said he was tired, said he needed a shower, said a lot of things Noah usually didn't say. And I stood there watching him retreat, knowing one thing for certain: Noah was never rude, he was never careless. Which meant whatever happened on his birthday wasn't as simple as he said, and for the first time I couldn't tell if he'd left because he wanted to grow up, or because he was trying to get away from me. I heard their voices before I saw them. Low, careful, the kind of quiet people use when they don't want someone overhearing, except I was overhearing, standing halfway down the hall with my fists already tight. I just want to look, Noah was saying, for my room, make it mine. Mom hummed thoughtfully, that sounds reasonable, you deserve your own space in the guest room. My stomach dropped. And Noah added, hesitant but stubborn, I think sleeping arrangements should be flexible, I'm 18 now. Flexible? I stepped into the doorway, no. Both of them turned. No, Mom echoed. No, I repeated sharper, that's not happening. Noah's jaw tightened, Tate. That's the reason you're here, I cut in, heat crawling up my neck. You don't get your own room, your own rules, and still stay in my bed when it suits you. Mom looked between us, Tate, let him finish. No, Noah said suddenly, voice firmer than I'd ever heard it. I am finished, I'm not asking permission. That hit harder than a slap. You don't just decide that, I said, staring at him. You don't get to walk out, vanish all night, and then rewrite everything. I'm not rebelling, he snapped, I'm growing up. Funny, I shot back, because it sounds like you're pulling away. His cheeks flushed, this isn't about you. That was the moment my jealousy turned ugly and sharp. Everything concerning you is about me, I said before I could stop myself. Don't pretend it's not. Mom stiffened, Tate. No, Noah said again, quieter now but unmovable. I'm getting my own room, I'm shopping for it, and where I sleep is my decision. I opened my mouth, nothing came out. I'd never seen him like this, standing straight, not shrinking, not apologizing, not clinging. Noah always did everything to please me. Where he slept, his showers, his time spent between sleep and attending school, and his presence was always near me or standing beside my body 12 hours a day. And I hated how much it scared me. Fine, I said finally, forcing the word out, do whatever you want. He looked at me then, really looked, and there was something new in his eyes, not fear, not dependence. Distance. He turned back to Mom, can we go now? They walked past me together. I stayed where I was, heart pounding, realizing too late that I'd just lost ground I didn't know I could lose, and that whatever changed on his birthday, it wasn't negotiable anymore. I didn't even let her put the bags down. So that's it, Mom, I said, standing in the kitchen with my arms crossed, heart already pounding. You just take him shopping like you're setting him up to leave. Mom sighed, the tired kind. Tate, stop. No, I snapped, you're taking him away from me. She set the keys on the counter a little harder than necessary. I'm not taking anyone away. Noah asked for things that every 18-year-old needs. Space, independence. Stop being so selfish and think about what Noah needs right now. He didn't need independence, I said, my voice cracking despite myself. He was fine, we were fine. She turned to face me fully then. You were comfortable, that doesn't mean he was. That hurt more than I expected. So you're siding with him, I said, against me. Her eyes softened, which somehow made it worse. This isn't a competition. It feels like competition to me, I shot back. Every time he wants something different, you back him. Every time I say no, I'm the problem. Tate, she said firmly, you don't own him. I flinched, I never said I did. You don't have to, she replied quietly. You act like his life only works if it orbits yours. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. He chose to be here. He chose safety, she corrected. And love, that doesn't mean he signed his future over to please you. My two boys are both adults now, and some things change or evolve. Let Noah grow up or you'll lose him completely. I felt heat rush behind my eyes. So what, I'm just supposed to watch him pull away, pretend it doesn't matter. You're supposed to grow up, she said, not unkindly but without backing down, and let him grow up too. I spent many nights watching security footage of the house to find out where Noah would sneak off to after 9 in the evening. I put a camera in the spare room so I would know when he slipped out of his room and where he was going. I didn't want Noah to sleep alone, and I couldn't sleep alone without knowing he was nearby. My family was too dangerous for naive Noah to sleep alone when they had keys to every door in this house. I protected us both by sleeping together until that obstinate independent blonde refused to sleep next to me. I broke through many bedroom doors, the spare room windows, and jimmied the lock on his car in the garage just so I could sleep next to him. Noah was so rebellious and obstinate. He just wouldn't let me sleep next to him for some reason. He no longer wanted to, so I tried to be on my best behavior during the day, made him feel safe, happy, and appreciated, but it made no difference at night. Noah would sneak up to the spare room and lock the door. A few times I was able to intercept him before he shut the door, but usually I watched the camera to find out where he hid. I had made a skeleton key years before so I could get into any room I wanted to hide from my father. I was the rich boy, and rich boys get what they want. What I really wanted was to sleep next to Noah, but for some reason the blonde boy wouldn't let me. I knew better. I knew he really wanted me there. He was just playing hard to get, and if I had to bide my time or sit on him to get him to confess his real desires, I would. I felt heat rush behind my eyes. So what, I'm just supposed to watch him pull away, pretend it doesn't matter, mother? You're supposed to grow up, Talia said, not unkindly but without backing down. And let him grow up too, Tate. I looked away, swallowing hard. You're choosing him over me again. I'm choosing what's healthy, she said, for both of you, even if you can't see that yet. The silence after that was brutal. I nodded one stiff, fine. But it didn't feel fine. It felt like something precious was slipping through my fingers, and no matter how tight I clenched my fists, I couldn't stop it. Noah didn't come back on his birthday. I stared at the ceiling until the numbers on the clock bled together. 11:12. 11:37. 11:58. Midnight clicked over and the house settled into that hollow quiet that only shows up when something is wrong. I couldn't do it. I can't sleep without him. Weeks later, after graduation, when he returned but slept down the hall, I got up one night and walked down the hallway barefoot, every step louder than it should have been. His spare door was cracked open. Light from the street spilled across the floor, cold and blue. He was already asleep. On his side, curled inward, as far from the empty half of the bed as he could get. My chest tightened. I climbed in bed anyway, slow and careful, as if I startled him, he might vanish again. The sheets were colder than my room, wrong and unfamiliar. I lay there stiff for a moment, then shifted closer, desperate, pressing my forehead into the space between his shoulders. Why are you in here? I thought, anger and panic tangling together. Why are you sleeping in this cold room when I'm down the hall waiting? Nothing about this made sense. You hate being alone, I told myself, you always have, so why now? Why can you suddenly do this? I listened to his breathing, steady and even. It hurt that he could sleep like this, like something hadn't been torn open. What changed between us? Was it the girl Maya that Noah claimed to meet? Was it his birthday? Was it me? I wanted to shake him awake, demand answers, make him look at me the way he used to, like I was gravity, and he had no choice but to orbit. Instead, I stayed silent. I inched closer to the spare room bed where he lay until my chest was pressed to his back, my arm draped over his waist as it had always been. My heart was racing, loud in my ears, and I wondered if he could feel it, if he understood what it meant. You're not supposed to be in here, I thought bitterly. Your place is with me in our bedroom down the hall. But he didn't move, didn't reach back, didn't pull me closer. I lay there in that cold room, clinging to him while he slept peacefully. And for the first time it hit me, really hit me, that whatever we were, whatever rules I thought existed, were no longer mine to enforce. And that terrified me. Whack! Pain snapped through my cheek, and I jolted awake, heart slamming like I'd been caught doing something illegal. What the hell? I wanted to sleep alone, Noah said, furious and hoarse. Why are you here? His eyes were dark, wild in the low light, not scared, angry. That was new. That shook me more than the slap. I yawned, reflexively, stupidly, like this was any other night, like things were normal. Then I reached for him and pulled him close without thinking, muscle memory taking over before my brain caught up. I missed you, I murmured, pressing my face into his shoulder. I couldn't sleep. He stiffened immediately. Don't, he snapped, pushing at my chest. Don't do that. I froze. Don't do what? Be here, touch you, breathe near you. You don't get to just, he broke off, sitting up, running a hand through his hair in frustration. You don't get to decide where I sleep anymore. That landed hard. I wasn't deciding, I said too quickly. This is how it's always been. That's the problem, he shot back. It's always been that way because you wanted it that way. My throat tightened. That's not fair. No, he said quietly. When was the last time you asked what I wanted? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Inside my head everything spiraled. This is wrong. He's tired. He doesn't mean it. He'll calm down. He always does. I didn't mean to wake you, I said finally, softer. I thought you'd come back. I did come back, he said, just not to your bed. Silence stretched between us, sharp and unfamiliar. I need space, Tate, he added, not yelling now. I want my own room where I can sleep alone. My chest burned. Space felt like abandonment, like punishment. No, you don't get to sleep alone in this house away from me. Noah sneered. I will, and you can't stop me. Fine, I said, stiff, even though it was the last thing I wanted. If that's what you want, one day I'll shut it down and you'll sleep in your mother's trailer. He hesitated like he expected me to argue. When I didn't, his expression flickered. Guilt, maybe, or doubt spread across Noah's face. I slid out of the bed, every step heavy. As I reached the door, I couldn't stop myself from thinking it, ugly and desperate. If you don't need me like you used to, then what am I to you now? I didn't say it out loud. I shut the spare door behind me and walked back down the hallway alone, my bed waiting, untouched, and for the first time in years, unbearable. 5 minutes later, my whole body was resting outside his door, propped up, trying to sleep. Breakfast was agony. Noah sat across from me at the table, spine straight, eyes fixed on his plate, as if it had personally offended him. Fork scraping, jaw tight, not a glance in my direction. I cleared my throat. Nothing. I nudged his knee under the table with my own. He shifted his leg away like I'd bumped a stranger on a bus. Okay, message received. I tried again, softer this time, rubbing the top of his foot with my toes, a move that used to get a smile or at least a sigh. Nothing, not even a flinch. Jesus. So this is what it feels like, I thought, being shut out. Mom chatted aimlessly about errands and furniture like the air between Noah and me wasn't radioactive. Plates clinked, coffee poured, normal sounds over something very not normal. Noah, I said finally, keeping my voice light, casual. You want more eggs? I'm fine, he said without looking up. 2 words, flat, polite, devastating. I watched him instead of eating, the way his shoulders stayed tense, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. The way he angled his body away from me like distance could be measured in inches, and he was determined to claim every one of them. I didn't mean to cross a line, I told myself. I just didn't know the line existed or had moved. I tried again, quieter, about last night. He stood abruptly, chair legs screeching against the floor. I said I'm fine. He wasn't, we both knew it. He grabbed his plate and carried it to the sink, back still to me. When he turned, his expression was guarded, hurt, armored into something sharper. I need space, he said low so only I could hear. You need to stop pretending nothing changed. Noah, ignoring me or withdrawing physically, was brutal. He walked out of the kitchen without another word, leaving me wondering what I did wrong. I sat there staring at my untouched breakfast, my foot still hovering under the table where his had been, feeling stupid for thinking a nudge or a touch could fix what I'd broken. For the first time in a long time, I realized something terrifying. Noah wasn't ignoring me to get my attention. He was doing it because he didn't know how to let me back in without getting hurt. I went with Noah to rent movies, keeping him close like always, but when we got home, he vanished. Just gone. I waited, walking the spread of the living room, my stomach twisting tighter with every minute until supper. When he finally appeared, he was wearing a red coat I didn't recognize. Not his, not ours. I didn't buy him that coat, nor did the blonde pick it off the rack when we shopped together. The jersey was too sharp, worn, and it hugged him in a way that made him look different, smiling, confident. And he smelled like something I couldn't place, fresh, bold, almost like he had a life I wasn't part of anymore. Where did you get that coat? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. He glanced down at it, brushing his fingers over the fabric. Mark let me borrow it, he said casually, as if borrowing clothes was no big deal. Mark, I repeated, feeling a twist of something ugly in my chest. Who the hell is Mark? He's a friend, Noah said, shrugging. We hung out this week. A friend, I said slowly, tasting the word like bile. A friend who gives you coats you never owned and smells like he belongs here. Noah blinked. Tate. Noah, I snapped, standing up and packing. I'm here, I'm always here, and now he shows up and you take a red coat from him and suddenly I'm, what, not enough? I didn't, he started, but I cut him off. Just don't, you've been gone all day, you vanish until dinner and now there's this guy with a coat and, I don't even know him, and suddenly I'm the jealous one. Noah's face shifted, softening. He took a step toward me. Tate, it's just a coat, and Mark, he's just a friend. I didn't mean to make you feel. You don't get it? I shouted, fists clenched. Everything about you is always safe with me, and now someone else shows up and I can't even recognize where I fit in anymore. Noah hesitated, swallowing. You're always there, you and me, Tate. Nothing changes that. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to reach for him, grab him close like I always did, but the red coat glared at me, bright and mocking. The way he smiled in it, the way he smelled like someone else's world, it stung. I sat back down heavily, glaring at him, my chest tight. I hate that coat, I muttered. He laughed softly, shaking his head. It's just a coat. Doesn't feel like just a coat, I said, voice low and dangerous. Feels like you're already moving away from me. Noah's smile faltered. He looked down, fiddling with the hem of the coat. I'm not moving away, he whispered. But I wasn't sure if he even believed it. The way Noah looked at and touched the coat was how I looked at Noah: infatuation, pride, hero worship, and hidden secrets. Tate's hatred of Mark was rooted in jealousy, resentment, and a profound sense of loss. To Tate, Mark was an interloper who had taken away the attention of his closest childhood buddy, Noah. The red coat became a symbol of everything Tate believed Mark had stolen from him. The attention, admiration, affection, love, focus, time, closeness, and shared plans that Tate had once experienced with Noah. For 14 years, Tate had believed that bond belonged to him. Now, watching Noah devote those same parts of himself to Mark filled Tate with an overwhelming rage. He wanted to put his hands on Mark, not simply because he hated him, but because Mark represented the painful realization that the place Tate had occupied in Noah's life for so long was no longer his alone. Mark's actions felt especially cruel to Tate because, in Tate's mind, Mark had unknowingly taken away the one source of comfort and protection Tate had during his abusive childhood. Noah had been Tate's safety, his calm place, and the person who made him feel protected when home was anything but safe. Mark didn't know that when Noah wasn't there, Terrence, Tate's father, would abuse him. He couldn't understand why Noah's presence meant so much to Tate, or why losing his attention felt like losing his shield against the world. Tate resented Mark for daring to take Noah, his childhood buddy, his protector, his bodyguard, away from him. To Tate, Noah wasn't simply someone he loved. Noah had been the person who stood between him and the fear waiting for him at home. Tate hated that Noah had made friends at Brown, but he forced himself to tolerate it because he was terrified that Noah might eventually leave him. What Tate needed most was Noah's physical presence beside him at night, the familiar closeness that allowed the wealthy young man to finally quiet his mind enough to sleep. Tate could never tell Noah the real reason. He could not put into words the lifelong abuse he had endured as a child or explain how deeply it had shaped his need for safety. Instead, Tate tried to control the circumstances around Noah, quietly making sure that whenever they slept, Noah was always beside him. To Tate, it wasn't merely a preference or possessiveness. Somewhere beneath it was the desperate belief that if Noah was close enough, nothing could reach him. Tate saw anyone who threatened his nighttime routine with Noah as an inconvenience that needed to be removed. He wanted Noah's time, proximity, plans, attention, emotional loyalty, and constant access, and he viewed Mark as a direct obstacle to the happy, platonic life he believed he was entitled to have with Noah. In Tate's mind, if the world were fair, Mark would simply disappear from their lives, leaving Noah's time and proximity entirely his again. Tate found himself glaring at anyone who came too close to Noah, especially people who seemed interested in him. Beneath the jealousy was a deeper fear. Tate believed it would take only one person, girl or guy, who refused to give up until they had pulled Noah away from him, and eventually away from Tate's bed at night. To Tate, losing Noah's proximity meant losing the security he had spent years building his life around. Tate hadn't understood jealousy before Noah entered his life in kindergarten. From the beginning, he wanted Noah's entire attention and focus, as though having Noah completely present was the only way to feel secure. Jack, Susie, Anna, Bree, and Andrew initially seemed like threats, each one capable in Tate's mind of pulling Noah away from him. Over time, however, it became obvious that none of them intended to take Noah from Tate, and Tate reluctantly learned to tolerate them. Friends were acceptable, even necessary, so long as they kept Noah happy, social, and content enough that he remained close to Tate. To Tate, Friendship was a necessary evil he could endure if it meant Noah stayed by his side and never felt compelled to leave him. Tate's BPD intensified his fear that Noah would leave him. His clinginess, neediness, and possessive, controlling behavior were fueled by an overwhelming fear of abandonment. Even though Tate knew those same behaviors might eventually push Noah away, he became intensely physically affectionate with the blonde, constantly seeking closeness and reassurance so Noah would feel loved, wanted, and needed enough to stay. To Tate, Noah's presence represented safety in a world he had never learned to navigate alone. At 18, Tate couldn't imagine sleeping by himself, much less facing the rest of his life without the person he thought of as his bodyguard. The thought of losing Noah wasn't simply frightening to him, it felt unbearable. The only thing Tate needed from Noah more than his physical proximity as a bodyguard was his emotional connection and mental loyalty. Physical closeness made Tate feel safe, but knowing that Noah genuinely wanted him there was what made that safety feel real. After Noah's 18th birthday, Tate began to sense something had changed. Noah still tolerated his presence, but Tate could no longer feel the same wholehearted affection he had experienced for more than a decade. Before, Noah had seemed genuinely happy to have Tate beside him. Now, Tate felt as though Noah merely allowed him to remain there. To Tate, that distinction was devastating. His BPD magnified every hesitation, every distracted glance, and every moment when Noah seemed emotionally distant, turning them into evidence that the bond Tate depended on was slipping away. Tate saw Noah's loyalty, love, emotional prioritization of their relationship, and physical proximity as proof that Noah would never leave him. To Tate, these weren't simply signs of affection. They were reassurance that he would not be abandoned and left vulnerable to Terrence's abuse and coercion. Tate had wanted to leave Los Angeles, hoping to put distance between himself and the people who had hurt him, but Noah had refused to leave, forcing Tate to remain close to the very people he desperately wanted to escape. More than anything, Tate wanted Noah's love and trust. He needed to know emphatically and without doubt that Noah loved him above everyone else. Without that certainty, Tate's fear took over. His BPD magnified every uncertainty into the possibility of abandonment, and the thought of Noah choosing someone else terrified him. If Tate couldn't feel absolutely certain that Noah would remain emotionally loyal to him, he feared being left alone, unprotected, and once again at the mercy of the life he had spent years trying to survive. Tate was terrified of marriage, not because he feared commitment, but because he feared what marriage might mean for his relationship with Noah. In Tate's mind, it could take only one woman who wanted Noah for the blonde to abandon 15 years of companionship. The thought left Tate imagining himself alone in a cold, silent house and an empty bed, with the person who had been his constant source of comfort suddenly living a life that no longer included him. Tate also understood that marriage would create boundaries he could not control. He knew no woman was likely to accept Noah continuing to sleep beside Tate every night, regardless of how much money or influence Tate possessed. If Noah eventually lived with a girlfriend or wife, Tate feared that the physical closeness he depended on would disappear completely. His greatest fear was not simply losing Noah to romance. It was waking up one day and realizing that 15 years of companionship had been replaced by a life in which Tate no longer had a place beside him. Dinner was hell. Maya, Noah's new annoying girlfriend, showed up, all smiles and perfume and confidence that made my stomach twist. She slid into the chair next to Noah like I wasn't even in the room. I wanted to vanish, shove her off the chair, curl under the table, anything to disappear. Noah barely glanced at me the entire night. A quick nod here, a polite smile there, nothing that said, "I see you, Tate." "So Maya," Mom said brightly. Oblivious, "Noah tells me you two have been hanging out a lot." "Yeah," Maya chirped, leaning toward him. "We've been spending a lot of time together. We met at the party the day of his birthday." I felt my hands tighten around my fork. Spending time together. Translation, laughing at jokes I wouldn't get and sharing glances I wasn't part of. I thought Noah said he met her at the party. I was confused. Noah laughed at something she said, that warm, easy laugh I'd memorized for years. It twisted something sharp inside me. "So what do you think of his new room, Tate?" Maya asked, nudging him with her elbow close enough to make my stomach churn. Noah shrugged, smiling down at her. "I like it, you helped pick some things out right." I opened my mouth, say something, say anything. "Yeah, he probably needs some help picking it out," I said finally, trying to sound casual, but my voice came out tighter than I intended. "Maybe I could help too, if he wanted." Maya smiled at me politely. "Oh, that's sweet, but I think he has enough help already." I felt heat rise to my face. Right, of course, the help he needs is enough, I muttered under my breath, tone laced with more bitterness than I realized. Noah's head turned just slightly toward me, but he didn't look at me, just shrugged. It's fine, Tate, really. Fine, I repeated louder this time. Fine for what? You never even asked me to help, you just include her. Hey, calm down, Noah said, voice low but firm. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to? I snapped, leaning forward, chest tight. You didn't mean to laugh with her, to smile at her, to my voice hitched, to make me feel invisible. Maya blinked, looking between us, sensing the tension. Wow, I didn't mean. Stay out of this, I said sharply, my hands shaking a little. You've done too much already. Noah flinched but didn't answer. He glanced down at the table, quiet now, letting me rage silently in my own head. I wanted him to look at me, remember whose shoulder he used to lean on, the hand he used to grab when he was nervous, whose heart raced when he laughed. I wanted him to know that I hated that she was in the seat beside him, touching him, smiling at him, and I was just watching. Finally, I pushed back my chair a little, muttering, yeah, whatever, enjoy your little team-up, I'm not part of it. Noah's voice softened then, just barely audible. Tate, I didn't mean to make you feel. You didn't, I cut in, bitter, because it sure feels like you chose her over me tonight. He hesitated, eyes flicking to mine, but didn't respond. And that made me hotter than anything else, angry, hurt, jealous, and realizing that for the first time Noah wasn't just drifting away. He was letting someone else in while I stood nearby, and I didn't know how to stop it. I was face down on my bed, tears soaking the pillow, heart pounding like it had a mind of its own. Everything felt raw and heavy, like the air in the room had thickened just to crush me. From the spare room I could hear them, Noah's laugh muffled against her lips, the quiet, desperate sounds of Maya pressing against him, little gasps, the way he always responded. I wanted to scream, I wanted to burst through the door and demand him back, but I couldn't. Jealousy twisted in my chest like a knife. She had taken his time, his attention, his smile, leaving me scraps. I curled tighter into the blankets, shivering, the sheets cold against my skin. My bed felt enormous and empty, lonely, like it didn't even belong to me anymore. This is my Noah, I thought bitterly. He's supposed to be mine, he's supposed to be here. But he wasn't. And the sound of her voice laughing, the faint brush of lips, the way he whispered her name, all of it was proof that I was no longer the center of his world. I hugged my pillow, burying my face, tasting salt and sorrow, hatting her, hatting him, hatting myself for feeling so helpless. The night stretched on, cold and unbearable, and I wondered if I'd ever feel warm again without him beside me. I stopped sniffing and wiping my eyes when I heard the soft creak of Noah's footsteps on the floorboards around 10. My CPTSD made me jump. My body expected Terrence or Jay to be standing beside my bed, not sweet Noah, who was currently vexing me profusely. Still, seeing Noah in my bedroom voluntarily was strangely comforting. Once Noah's presence there had been effortless, familiar, safe, and reassuring. These days, though, Noah acted as if my bedroom were a war zone, avoiding it with the determination of a frigid wife who wanted nothing to do with her husband. I tried not to take it personally, but every time he stayed away, some frightened part of me wondered whether I was losing the one person whose presence had once made my bedroom feel safe. After 14 years of warmth, love, companionship, tenderness, and sentiment from Noah, Tate couldn't understand how the blonde could suddenly act like a frigid woman who couldn't get away from him fast enough. No one ignored Tate Blue, not after everything he and Noah had shared. In Tate's mind, Noah Lunas was in for a rude awakening if he thought he could simply disappear from Tate's life. Tate refused to accept the distance. He wanted Noah in his bed like always, wanted the familiar companionship that had comforted him for years, and convinced himself that Noah was merely playing hard to get. Beneath Tate's anger, however, was a desperate fear that Noah's avoidance meant something far worse, that the warmth and closeness Tate had depended on for 14 years were finally slipping beyond his control. It took Tate several weeks after Noah fled his house to understand what he feared most. Beneath his anger, possessiveness, and desperate need to keep Noah close was a realization he had spent years refusing to acknowledge. He was terrified that Noah loved someone else. Eventually, Tate understood that he had fallen in love with Noah, and that Noah's heart belonged to Mia instead. The realization unsettled Tate even more because it forced him to confront feelings that conflicted with the beliefs he had carried for years. Tate had been openly hostile toward gay people, Yet his feelings for Noah were no longer entirely platonic. He wanted Noah in ways he could never admit aloud. Tate also knew, or at least believed, that Noah did not return those feelings, so he buried them beneath the only role he thought Noah would accept, his buddy. He acted as though their relationship was unchanged, hiding the romantic feelings beneath years of familiarity, loyalty, and carefully maintained friendship. He poked his head into my room, red eyes already on me. "Hey, you okay?" His voice was quiet, careful. I didn't answer, I just hugged the blanket tighter, feeling the tears still warm on my cheeks. "I thought maybe we could grab some snacks or watch a movie downstairs," he offered, stepping a little closer. I shook my head, not trusting my voice to stay steady. I'm fine," I muttered, even though every word felt hollow. Noah frowned. "You don't look fine, Tate, come on, talk to me." "I'm fine," I repeated, sharper this time, "just leave me alone." Tate was in pain. His childhood buddy Noah loved a girl while Tate had fallen hopelessly in love with Noah. He had no idea how to bring those feelings into the open, and after Noah had fled his house and Tate's bed, Tate was even less willing to risk saying anything. Noah seemed determined to build a conventional life of his own, and Tate convinced himself that confessing his love would only push him farther away. Still, Tate searched constantly for some hint that Noah might feel the same way. A lingering look, an unexpected touch, a moment of tenderness, anything that could prove Tate wasn't imagining the connection between them. What Tate didn't realize was that Noah was doing exactly the same thing at the same time, quietly searching for evidence that Tate's feelings went beyond companionship. Neither boy knew that Noah and Tate loved each other. Each interpreted the other's hesitation as rejection and silence as proof that the feelings weren't mutual. Eventually, both gave up, not because the love wasn't there, but because neither could imagine that the person they had loved as their closest buddy for so many years secretly loved them back. Their tragedy was that the feelings were reciprocated, yet both walked away believing they had been alone in them. Noah hesitated, shoulders tensing. "I'm not trying to." "I don't want to fake it," I said, finally, voice cracking. "I can't, not tonight. I don't want to pretend I'm okay being close when I feel like I'm losing you." His frown deepened, and for a moment he just stood there, silent, probably trying to figure out if he'd crossed some invisible line. "Losing me?" he asked, softer. Like the words themselves scared him. "Yes," I admitted, hiding my face in the pillow again. I can't be happy for you when she's here, taking all your attention, leaving me with scraps and a cold bed." Noah sighed, and I could hear the weight in it. "Tate, I'm still here. I'm not leaving you out in the cold. You're important." "Doesn't feel like it," I muttered, voice muffled. "Feels like I'm invisible." He knelt beside the bed, hesitating before resting a hand lightly on my shoulder. "I'm not gonna pretend I don't care," he said. "Even if I hang out with Maya, even if I smile at her, I'm still your Noah. You know that, right?" I swallowed hard, trying not to scream or break down all over again. "I don't know," I whispered. I don't know if I can deal with feeling like this." He stayed there, silent, letting me cry it out while his hand rested on me, warm but not intrusive. Not yet. And even that small, careful presence was more than anyone else could give. But it hurt like hell. Because even with him there, I still felt like I was losing him. Noah slept that night with Maya, probably. I couldn't stop the thought from gnawing at me. I curled up in the cold sheets of my bed, shivering despite the blankets. Every corner of the room felt empty, silent, wrong. Noah always generated heat when he slept, not just the warmth of a body but the way he filled a space. He was like an oven radiating something I didn't even notice until it was gone. Now, without him here, I was freezing. Not just cold, lonely, aching, the kind of cold that digs into your bones and refuses to leave. I could still smell him sometimes, a faint trace of him lingering on the sheets or the pillow, but it only made the emptiness worse. I imagined him there, the way he laughed, the way he pressed close in the dark, the way I used to curl against him and feel safe. And now, he was with her, smiling at her, touching her, giving her the warmth that used to be mine. I hugged myself tighter, trying to fill the space he left behind, but it didn't work. I missed him, missed my buddy, missed the way it used to be when the world didn't matter as long as he was next to me. I pressed my face into the pillow and whispered to the empty room, "Come back, Noah, I need you." And for the first time in years, I realized how much I'd depended on him, not just for comfort and safety, but for quality of life. I had nightmares that night. A dragon, massive, all teeth and heat, hunted me in my sleep. Its wings blotted out the sky, its breath burned, and no matter how fast I ran, it was always right behind me. I woke up gasping, heart pounding, sheets twisted around my legs. I knew what the dragon represented. It was Terrence, or perhaps Jay. I tried to lie there, I really did, tried to be an adult, tried to breathe through it. But the dark felt too big without him. I grabbed my pillow and blanket, moving quietly through the hallway. The house was asleep, the air cold. I stopped outside the spare room, his room tonight, and sank onto the carpet. I didn't knock, I didn't go in. I just lay there right outside his door. I curled onto my side, pulling the blanket up to my chin, listening. Every small sound mattered, the faint shift of movement inside, the house settling, my own breathing slowly evening out. Being this close was enough to calm the shaking in my hands. "I'm still here," I whispered to myself, like a lie I needed to believe. The carpet was hard and the hallway drafty, but I stayed. I slept there on the door like it was the last warm place in the world, like if I stayed close enough I wouldn't lose him completely. Even if he didn't know I was there. Sleeping in a hallway is awful. The floor is too hard, the air too cold, every little sound too sharp. I barely slept at all, just drifted in and out, wrapped in thin dreams and aches, but I still felt safer there than I ever did in my own room. Closer to him, closer to where I belonged. Sometime later I heard footsteps on the stairs, familiar, measured, my mom heading downstairs to prepare the catered breakfast like she always did, pretending the house wasn't quietly cracking at the seams. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, heart already thudding. I should have moved. I should have announced myself. Instead, I leaned closer to the spare room door. The keyhole was right there. I knew it was wrong to spy on them, I knew it. That made my chest tighten even more, but curiosity and fear won anyway. I bent down, holding my breath, and looked. The room was dim, curtains half drawn. Noah was still in bed, turned slightly on his side, hair a mess, face softer than it ever looked when he was awake. For a split second, relief washed over me so hard it almost hurt. Maya was sleeping in Noah's arms the way we used to sleep. Shoulder to shoulder, small snores, and the comfort of being pressed against him. My chest ached, tight and bitter. He was still here. I pulled back quickly, guilt rushing in afterward, sharp and sour. My stomach twisted. Don't do that, I told myself, don't be that person. Don't be Jay. The sound of pans clinking downstairs broke the spell. Morning had arrived, whether I was ready or not. A new day where Noah would wake up and choose where he belonged, and where I'd have to pretend I was okay with whatever that choice was. I gathered my pillow and blanket, standing slowly, joints stiff, heart heavy. Safe or not, I couldn't live in the hallway forever. I finally went back to my room, still clutching my pillow and blanket, but my eyes couldn't leave the sight of them. Breakfast was awful. Mom chatted about errands, the weather, completely oblivious to the tension radiating from the table. Noah sat beside Maya, holding her hand lightly on the table, smiling at her like everything was perfect and normal. And I sat across, my fork scraping against the plate, tasting nothing but cold anger and loneliness. "Pass the eggs, Noah," Mom said casually. He reached over to her instead of me, sliding the plate across to her, smiling down at her. I wanted to yank the plate back, slam it on the table, scream, anything, but I didn't, I just stared. "You okay, Tate?" Noah asked, voice low, trying to catch my eye. I looked up, forcing a neutral expression. "Yeah, fine." My voice didn't sound fine even to me. He frowned slightly, glancing back at Maya, then me, like he wanted to do something but didn't know what. "You're smiling a lot," I muttered, not bothering to hide the edge in my voice. "It must be nice having her here." He hesitated. "It's different," he said carefully, "but I'm still." "Still what?" I interrupted, my fork clattering onto the plate. "Still mine." His eyes flicked to mine, guilty, conflicted. "Tate, you know that doesn't change anything." I scoffed, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "Doesn't feel like it. You're holding her hand, smiling at her, sitting next to her, and I'm here, I'm just here." Noah's lips pressed into a line. He didn't argue, he didn't say anything, and that silence burned hotter than anything else. I forced myself to look away, stabbing at my eggs covered in ketchup. Safe and comfortable, not anymore, not while she was here. I flinched at the words, even though I'd walked right into them. "That's not," I started, then stopped. That's not what I meant. Noah finally looked at me, really looked. His jaw was set, eyes darker than usual. Hurt sat there plain as day and it knocked the air out of me. You don't get to decide when I matter, he said quietly. You don't get to pull me close when you're lonely and then act surprised when I move on. I wasn't surprised, I snapped too fast, defensive. I exhaled hard, I miss you. That's the problem, he said. You miss having me there when you want me. You expect Noah to always be available, always needing you. The words landed like a punch. I swallowed. That's not fair. Isn't it? He looked back out the window, jaw working. You didn't say anything when I was sleeping on the couch. You didn't say anything when I tried to make space. But now that I'm not just waiting around, he shook his head. Now you want to make plans. After breakfast, Tate was going shopping. Noah jumped in his car before Tate sped off to have a word with him. I pulled up to a stop sign and sat there longer than I needed to. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. Everything feels different and I hate it. Yeah, he said softly, me too. We drove in silence for a block, too. The town slid past like it always had, like nothing had changed, which somehow made it worse. I wasn't hopping in your car as if nothing changed, Noah added finally. I asked because I wanted to know if you still wanted me around, as me, not as a habit. I glanced at him, my throat tight. I do. He didn't answer right away, then. Quietly, then stop acting like I'm on loan. The light turned green. I pressed the gas, heart pounding, knowing this wasn't a fight I could win with force or familiarity, only honesty. That night, I marched into his room, heart hammering, and slammed the door behind me. You sleeping alone in here, I snapped. It's stupid and I won't allow it, I hate it. Noah froze, sitting up on the bed, pulling the blanket tight around him. His eyes were wide, hurt flickering through the anger. Tate, what are you doing? He asked quietly, voice trembling just enough to make my chest tighten. What I should have done a long time ago, I said, taking a step closer. I'm not letting you vanish from my life for her, for anyone. Noah flinched. You what? You think I want to be with her all the time, you think I... Yes, that's exactly what I think. I cut him off, voice shaking. I see the way you laugh with her, the way you touch her hand, the way you... I swallowed, trying to stop the heat in my chest from boiling over. Forget I exist. Do you even care that I'm here? I was angry. Noah, she's not me, I continued, words jagged. She doesn't make you feel what I do, she doesn't, she can't, and yet you act as if she owns you. Noah's jaw tightened. Tate, that's cruel, he said quietly, his own hurt breaking through. You sound like a jealous child. Child? I barked, stepping closer. Do you think I like being ignored while you flirt with someone else, sleep next to her, smile at her like I don't exist? Do you think it doesn't tear me apart? Do you think I like being trapped? Noah shot back, standing now, anger flashing. Do you think I like having you yell at me, storm into my room, and treat me like a possession? I'm not yours. You don't get it, I hissed, trembling. I've been your constant, I've been here, you belong here. Noah belongs to himself, he snapped. Not to you, not to anyone. You think I like feeling cornered, you think I chose this. The words stung, like knives wrapped in ice. You're just like everyone else, I muttered, voice cracking. Everyone thinks they can take you from me, laugh with you, touch you, and I'm supposed to sit there and watch? Fine, go ahead, leave me alone in the cold while you run off with them. I'm not leaving you, he said, softer now but no less firm. I'm here, I always am, but I can't do this your way, Tate, I can't be forced into your jealousy, into your anger. I swallowed hard, chest heaving, trying not to cry and scream at the same time. I don't care how you do it, I can't lose you. He looked at me then, eyes softening a fraction, guilt and frustration mingling. You're not losing me, Tate, but you have to stop trying to control me, stop acting like I'm yours to command. I wanted to hit something, I wanted to throw the pillow. I wanted him to look at me and see how much I needed him, how scared I was, but he wouldn't give me that satisfaction. We stood there, two angry, hurt kids in a room too small for the emotions bouncing between us, and yet somehow, I knew neither of us would walk away. Because despite the yelling, despite the jealousy, despite the pain, he was still mine, at least, I hoped he still was. A few days later Maya came back, and just as she arrived the lights flickered and then went out completely. The house fell into darkness. Noah grabbed some blankets and I followed him instinctively. We ended up in his bed, three of us pressed together in the tiny warmth we could scrounge from the covers. Maya, of course, chose the middle, leaving me on the far side. Noah's arm naturally draped over her, fingers intertwined. She giggled at something he whispered, the sound light and soft and unbearable. My stomach twisted. I felt every inch of space between us stretch impossibly wide. "Are you cold?" Noah asked, glancing at me with that stupid, innocent smile he always managed even when he had no right to. I wanted to grab him, pull him closer, shove her out, do something, anything to reclaim what was mine. Instead I muttered, "I'll survive." He frowned but didn't push. His attention immediately returned to her, brushing back her hair, holding her hand. I lay there, jaw tight, trying not to squirm under the ache of jealousy. I could feel the warmth radiating from them both, the intimacy I used to have with him, now claimed by her. "I hate her," I thought, biting my lip. "I hate that she's here. I hate that he's smiling at her like that. I hate myself for feeling this way." I curled further into my corner, clenching the blanket, forcing myself to look anywhere but at them. But I couldn't. Every giggle, every brush of their fingers made the ache in my chest worse. Why can't it be me? The thought hit me over and over like a drum, and even in the dark with the room freezing around us, I felt colder than ever, cold, invisible, and unbearably jealous. That night, I made a decision to sleep next to my friend regardless of his wishes. I don't think it was right, but I was desperate to sleep. I crawled into his bed the next night even though he'd told me not to. I hadn't slept much in 6 days, and exhaustion makes you do stupid things, dangerous things. This was his room. He'd claimed it a week ago. I told myself that meant something. It didn't. "Tate, please," Noah said into the dark, my voice thin. I didn't answer. Instead, I caught my hand and threaded his fingers through mine, not gentle, not angry, decisive. My grip tightened when I tried to pull back, slow and deliberate, like resistance only confirmed what he already believed. The message was clear. This wasn't a choice he was offering me. I froze, my chest locked. This wasn't comfort, this wasn't closeness, it was fear dressed up as certainty. I lay rigid, staring into the ceiling I couldn't see, my thoughts screaming while he stayed perfectly still. Certain, settled, already convinced I wasn't going anywhere. Morning came all at once. I woke mostly to him, not beside on him. My weight pressed him into the mattress, his leg hooked over mine, his body arranged with intention. My breath was shallow, measured. His hand was still trapped above my head, fingers numb where he'd left them tangled in his. The memory hit me, his mouth closing over our joined fingers in the dark the night before. Slow, deliberate, not affection, a warning. He shifted just enough to tell me he was awake, just enough to remind me I was pinned. His breath brushed my skin, calm and unhurried, like time didn't matter, like my fear didn't register. I didn't move. His grip tightened, not rough, not gentle, a correction. That was the test. Every instinct in me screamed to shove him off, to break the shape he'd forced us into, but I didn't. I went still instead, jaw locked, refusing to give him the reaction he wanted. He waited. When I didn't fight, didn't soften, didn't disappear, he settled more of his weight onto me anyway, mistaking silence for permission. I heaped ketchup on my pancakes like it was the most natural thing in the world. The red streaks dripped over the edges, pooling on the plate. Noah gagged beside me, eyes wide. "Seriously, Tate," he said, waving a hand in front of his mouth. That's just wrong." I grinned, not even slowing down. "Wrong, it's delicious, you just don't have the palate for greatness." Dad stopped reading the newspaper, a frown crossing his face. "Tate, ketchup on pancakes, really? That's not normal." "Thanks, Dad," I muttered around a bite, letting the sauce slide down my throat. I tried to innovate. He shook his head, muttering something about manners and childhood sins. I ignored him. This was my rebellion, my comfort, my chaos on a plate. Noah glanced at me, still looking horrified, then back at his own eggs and bacon. I knew he'd never understand, but I didn't care. Friday's visit from the family loomed over me like a storm cloud. Aunts, uncles, cousins, parents all streaming in with their opinions, their loud voices, their constant observation. My stress levels always spiked the closer we got to a full house. I shoved another bite of ketchup-soaked pancake in my mouth, feeling a mix of dread and defiance. Let them come. Let them judge. I'd survive maybe, but the house would never feel like mine again once the swarm arrived. Noah leaned closer, whispering, "You really are insane sometimes." I smirked, shoulders tense. Maybe, but at least I'm surviving breakfast before they arrive to ruin it. I slid my foot under the table, brushing it lightly against Noah's leg. A small, deliberate nudge. He didn't react. I kicked his shin harder this time. "Hey, pay attention to me," I whispered, letting my voice carry just enough for him to hear. He glanced up, eyes wide, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth, but he didn't say a word. "Leave Noah alone, Tate, he's in love." Mom's voice cut across the table like a whip. She had that tone, the one that made you realize you'd gone too far. I froze, my foot still dangling near his leg. I'm not. "Do I need to move you to your room?" she warned. I sighed, pulling my foot back under my chair, pretending to look at my plate, but I kept stealing glances at him. The little thrill of contact, the teasing, and the closeness were too tempting. Noah kept his eyes on his fork, but I could feel him tensing slightly, probably aware of the small game we were playing even under Mom's gaze. I muttered under my breath, "She doesn't get it, she never does." "Neither do you sometimes," Noah whispered, finally letting a tiny laugh escape just loud enough for me to hear. I grinned, feeling a spark of victory despite Mom's scolding. Even if she tried to stop me, we always found ways to connect. My little game of footsie, our silent exchanges, and the moments she would never understand. I slid my foot under the table again, brushing it against Noah's shin. He flinched slightly but kept his fork in his hand, pretending not to notice. I couldn't help smirking. "Hey, you're ignoring me again," I whispered, giving his leg a harder nudge. Noah's eyes flicked up at me, lips twitching like he wanted to laugh, but he didn't. "Leave Noah alone, Tate," Mom called, her voice sharp. I froze, but only for a second. Mom was always quick to scold, but she didn't understand the stakes of what was happening right under her nose. "I'm not," I started, but she was already out of the room. She disappeared into the kitchen to grab the rolls, the sound of the door clicking behind her echoing down the hallway. I exhaled quietly. With her gone, the tension under the table shifted. I inched my foot back toward Noah's leg, brushing it slowly this time, teasing, watching for any reaction. Noah's jaw tightened and I could feel the heat of him shifting under the table. "Tate," he murmured, a mix of warning and amusement in his voice. I grinned, giving his shin a gentle kick, enjoying the flush I could feel radiating from him. "You can't pretend I don't exist," I whispered. He sighed but didn't pull away, his hand tapping nervously on his plate. "You're ridiculous," he muttered, low enough that Mom wouldn't hear. "Ridiculous, maybe," I replied under my breath, "but at least I'm not invisible." The sound of Mom returning with the basket of rolls startled me. I yanked my foot back under the table, feigning innocence as she set them down. But Noah's glance caught mine across the plates, just enough to remind me that our little war wasn't over. Even with Mom back, I knew we'd keep playing this game, footsie and glances and silent tension, until one of us finally lost or gave in. I grabbed the lemon juice bottle and with a flourish poured it all over my yogurt. The tart liquid pooled on top, making a perfect mess. Noah gagged so loudly that it made me snort. "Ugh, gross, that's disgusting, Tate, I'm just trying to eat my banana." I laughed, completely unbothered. "I've eaten worse," I said, digging in with a spoon, letting the tart mix coat every bite. Noah pushed his plate away, sliding it across the table so he wouldn't have to watch me assault my taste buds further. He muttered something about never eating breakfast with me again under his breath, but I didn't hear it clearly. Dad set his newspaper down with a sigh that carried years of disappointment. "Tate, what on earth are you doing?" His voice was exasperated, a mix of confusion and horror. "Lemon juice on yogurt, that's unnatural, uncivilized, you can't just—" "I can," I interrupted, grinning, "and I will." "No, you cannot," he said, pointing a finger at me like a judge delivering a verdict. "This is not how a person eats breakfast, I'm having fun," I said bluntly. "And honestly, Dad, I'm alive, aren't I? Still breathing, still me. Don't lecture me about my choices and I won't lecture you about your behavior." Noah peeked at me from behind his hands, trying not to laugh though his cheeks were red. He's insane, he whispered, shaking his head. Exactly, I said proudly, and proud of it. Dad groaned and muttered something about me never growing up, but I was too busy finishing my yogurt disaster to care. Noah was hiding a smile now, though he'd never admit it. Even gross food had its victories. Can you buy more Sichuan pepper today? I asked, not bothering to hide the excitement in my voice. He sighed but didn't pull away, his hand tapping nervously on his plate. You're ridiculous, he muttered, low enough that Mom wouldn't hear. Ridiculous maybe, I replied under my breath, but at least I'm not invisible. The sound of Mom returning with the basket of rolls startled me. I yanked my foot back under the table, feigning innocence as she set them down. But Noah's glance caught mine across the plates, just enough to remind me that our little war wasn't over. Even with Mom back, I knew we'd keep playing this game, footsie and glances and silent tension, until one of us finally lost or gave in. Can you even taste food anymore? Dad asked, narrowing his eyes at my plate. Sure, I lied smoothly, stabbing another bite with my fork and ignoring the way Noah rolled his eyes beside me. Mom laughed, shaking her head. At the rate you're eating, I expect you to be having a baby any day now. My stomach rolled over and I ran to the bathroom, throwing up my food. I hated the idea of marriage because it reminded me of Jay. Noah stopped eating while listening to me throw up in the mini half bathroom by the front door as he sat there at the table. I returned 5 minutes later, a little pale. Noah looked at me without saying anything. I reset the room, smiling and acting happy. I grinned, giving her a playful look. Maybe I am, I said, letting the joke hang, watching her blush slightly before she shook her head. Noah snorted quietly, but I could feel his glare, like he both wanted to laugh and was horrified at my antics. You're insane, he muttered under his breath, barely loud enough for me to hear. Exactly, I whispered back, smirking, and proud of it. Dad groaned, laying down his fork. I swear, Tate, your taste buds are a public enemy. I just laughed, shoving another bite into my mouth, secretly thrilled at the tiny cracks of chaos I was causing at the table. And beneath it all, I could feel Noah watching me, the mix of disbelief, exasperation, and something else I couldn't quite name. My family was fucking idiots, but the fact that they had no clue about anything that actually mattered was an asset to me. Let them argue about food and manners and palates, it kept them busy. Noah, on the other hand, leaned in, curious like always. He reached for my plate, fingers hovering over the disaster I'd created. I slapped his hand away without even looking. No, I said flatly. He blinked at me. I just wanted to try it. Bad enough I have to eat this, he doesn't need to suffer too, I thought. He blinked at me. I just wanted to share something. I never wanted to share that with Noah, ever. Every time I ate the Sichuan peppers, especially in the quantities I liked, my body reacted violently. Bowels like fire, sweat rolling down my back, stomach twisting like it was punishing me for even thinking about it. My mouth and tongue were entirely numb. I couldn't feel my mouth, and I like that. Noah had no idea, and he never would, I made sure of that. He doesn't need to see this side of me, I thought, shoving another bite into my mouth, ignoring the burn in my stomach. He doesn't need to know what it costs to eat as I do. Dad snorted again from across the table. Tate, your palate is a menace to civilization. I just smiled, let him think it was bravery, let him think it was a taste. Noah's obliviousness was a gift I guarded fiercely, even if it came at the price of my own suffering. Noah was quiet the entire time Emily was at dinner. He picked at his food, barely saying a word, eyes flicking between Emily and me every so often, but mostly fixed on her, smiling at all my jokes. Emily laughed harder than anyone else at the table. Perfect, I thought, karma for Maya's little overnight stunt. Noah didn't laugh, didn't comment, just sat there quiet like he was trapped somewhere inside his own head, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to shake him or smirk at him for being so easily thrown off. The phone rang, slicing through the tension. I picked up instantly, regretting my choice. It was fucking Mark, Noah's older guy friend whom I hadn't met. Mark, what the fuck do you want? Just checking in, he said, but I could hear the smirk in his voice. Thought I'd see if my favorite 18-year-old blonde softie is available, Mark asked Noah. Noah, it's for you, I said, trying to nudge him into attention. He leaned over slightly. Voice low, almost a whisper. I couldn't catch what he said, words swallowed by the hum of the dinner table and Emily's laughter. I frowned. What? Speak up. He shook his head, brushing past my hand as he stood. It's nothing, he muttered, barely audible. Before I could press further, he excused himself from the table and disappeared upstairs. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, watching the spot where he'd been. My chest tightened with something I couldn't quite name. Frustration, jealousy, and possessiveness were the feelings I felt while Noah talked to Mark during dinner. Emily glanced at me curiously. Is he okay? Fine, I said, though the lie tasted bitter. Fine, my ass, I thought. He's sulking. He's leaving me here to stew while he goes upstairs. Typical. I shoved a bite of my food into my mouth, keeping my jaw tight, trying not to let her notice the heat rising in my chest. Noah's silence left a vacuum I couldn't fill, and I hated it. I waited 5 minutes, then quietly snuck upstairs to see why Noah had left dinner. I pressed my ear to his door. I caught fragments of his voice, soft, low, and intimate. Noah was participating in phone sex with someone. My stomach dropped. Whatever he was doing, it wasn't straight stuff. Why is he doing that for Mark? That guy's a pervert, I thought, fists clenching. And Noah, is Noah actually listening to him? Mark was grooming my friend because Noah was desperate for friends. My chest burned with jealousy. I wanted to barge in, demand an explanation, make him stop, but I didn't, not yet. I retreated silently, fuming, my mind racing. Noah's room closed him off from me, and Emily was still downstairs, laughing and oblivious. The contrast made it worse. I don't care if they're both adults, I thought. I don't care. That doesn't mean I like it. I sat on the stairs for a minute, gripping the railing, plotting my next move. Noah had gone too far this time, and I wasn't about to let him forget it. I stood there too long, frozen on the landing, and Noah's eyes snapped open. You were spying, he said, voice sharp, accusing. I froze, caught, my chest burned with guilt and frustration all at once. I just wanted to see what was so important, I admitted, voice tight. He didn't say anything, just stared, and I could feel the tension stretch between us. I hope I never see Mark again, I thought bitterly. That guy's disgusting, making my buddy do unnatural, gross things. Why is Noah letting him? Why is he doing that? I turned away, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, my stomach twisted with jealousy and helplessness. He was mine, or at least that's how I felt, and seeing him caught up with Mark made my chest ache in a way I couldn't hide. Noah didn't follow me. He just stood there, quiet and unreadable, letting me stew in my own anger and confusion. I gritted my teeth. He's not going to forget that, I know, not ever. I cornered Noah before he could slip downstairs. You're a user, a cheater, a whore, a disgrace, a liar, a manipulator, I stopped, catching my breath, but my anger surged forward again. A coward, a fake buddy, you're disgusting, letting that Mark get inside your head. He froze, eyes wide, jaw tight. Tate, stop, he said softly, his voice calm but firm. Stop being jealous, and listen, I'm telling you what I'm doing, you don't get to call me that. Instantly, I knew my words had gone too far, my chest tightened, heat rising in my ears. I went too far. I stepped closer, voice shaking. Noah, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Please forgive me, I can't, don't hate me. He just looked at me, silent, letting me spill my guilt like poison between us. Mark was coaching me to help pick up girls. My jaw clenched, fists curling at my sides, and that Mark, that perv, that manipulative asshole grooming my buddy, my Noah. You're insane sometimes, I muttered under my breath, though it wasn't just muttered. You're reckless, selfish, careless, and letting that creep manipulate you like this, how could you? Noah's quiet gaze met mine, and I realized I had to fix this, now. I knew Noah was straight, of course he was. It was normal to feel adoration for your buddy, to crave attention, to get jealous sometimes, but that didn't make him queer, not in the way Mark was. Still, my chest tightened thinking about how easily he got caught up with someone else's influence. I hated it, hated the idea that Noah, my blonde, could be swayed or worse, confused by a pervert like Mark. It didn't matter that he was 18 and fully grown. My jealousy didn't care, my protectiveness didn't care. He was mine in ways no one else was allowed to touch, and watching him drift even slightly away set fire to everything inside me. I gritted my teeth, shoulders tense. I will not let him fall into that, not him, not my buddy. My job was to protect Noah. I had seen enough of Mark to know exactly what he was: creepy, manipulative, and always trying to push boundaries. That asshole wouldn't stop until he had Noah wrapped up in whatever scheme he wanted, treating him like some pawn instead of my friend. I clenched my fists, jaw tight. I won't let him do it, not to Noah, not ever. Every instinct in me screamed to act, to keep Noah close, to make sure he didn't get dragged into Mark's games. My protectiveness flared, my jealousy boiling at the thought of anyone, even an adult friend, taking him for granted or twisting him for their own gain. Noah was mine to watch over, mine to defend, and I wasn't going to let some creep manipulate him. Noah looked at me, his face serious. "It happened," he said quietly, and I immediately felt my stomach twist. I froze. Noah wouldn't be that cruel to me in my own house. "What do you mean, it happened?" He sighed. "Maya, that night on the mattress." My chest burned. I felt anger spike, hot and sharp. He slept with her on the same mattress I slept on. He disrespected me like that. He went on, giving me every frustrating detail about the night. How she came over, how close they'd been, everything that made my jealousy flare, but he carefully avoided saying things I didn't need to hear. I clenched my fists. "You had no right," I said, voice low but trembling. "That was my space, my trust." Noah leaned back, calm but unapologetic. "I told you because you deserve to know. I'm not hiding it." I felt the burn in my chest and the weight of betrayal. "I don't care if you think it's fine." That mattress mattered. I mattered. He didn't answer. He just stared, letting me rage quietly, and I realized my jealousy wasn't going away anytime soon. Noah's eyes were unreadable as he spoke. "You know, I could replace you instantly." I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "What?" My voice cracked, disbelief and anger mingling. He shrugged casually like it was no big deal. "You're not special enough. There are plenty of people I can sleep next to, talk to, and hang out with. I wouldn't even notice the difference." I felt my chest tighten, my hands balling into fists. "So all that time, all those nights, you didn't even care?" "I care," he said softly, almost mockingly. "But don't pretend I'm some kind of saint. I have fun too, more fun than, well, just sleeping next to you." I shook my head, hurt and disbelief twisting together. "Fun? You call this fun? You don't get to hurt me like this and then act like it's normal." He didn't answer right away, just looked at me with a calm, almost cold expression. "You're jealous," he said quietly, as if that explained everything. I leaned against the door, breathing hard, trying to steady myself. My hands were still trembling, my chest tight, my mind a storm. Noah stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "Tate, you're overreacting," he said, voice calm, almost teasing. "You really think I meant all that the way you're taking it?" I spun around, eyes blazing. "Then tell me, Noah, tell me I mattered, tell me what the hell we shared wasn't meaningless." He raised a brow, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Meaningless? You really think you own me, Tate? You think I owe you anything just because you decide I should?" My chest tightened so hard it hurt. I don't care about owning you, I care that you don't." "You care too much," he interrupted sharply, stepping closer, invading my space. "Too much to the point where you see everything as a betrayal, every choice I make as a crime against you." I slammed my hands against the doorframe, shaking my head. "I'm not wrong, you walked all over me, you're treating me like I'm nothing, Noah." He leaned in, voice low, almost teasing again. "You think you're nothing? You think I don't notice every look, every move, every time you try to control me? You're desperate, Tate. It's pathetic, but I can't lie, I like knowing it rattles you." He'd shot through me like fire. "Pathetic. You don't get to twist it onto me. You're supposed to care about me, not toy with me." He didn't flinch, didn't step back. "I do care," he said softly, eyes locking on mine. "I just care on my terms, not yours, and you're not used to that, are you?" My chest heaved, fury, jealousy, heartbreak collided in a single punch of raw emotion. "Noah, you think this is a game, you think you can hurt me and I'll just accept it?" His smirk softened slightly, but his gaze stayed piercing. Why not? You expect me to accept the bad behavior you show towards me. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm not letting your jealousy run my life either. That's the difference between us. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Every word, every look ignited the fire in me further, and yet, I couldn't look away. I hated him for this, and I wanted him more than ever. The room felt smaller, tighter, as if the air itself were charged with the storm between us. My fists clenched again, nails biting into my palms. Every instinct screamed to lash out to make him see how much he'd hurt me, but I also couldn't leave. Not yet. Not until he understood. My rage collided with frustration, and I stumbled slightly, fists clenched. "Fuck you," I yelled, voice raw, carrying all the anger, hurt, and disbelief at once. Tate's hands were trembling, jaw tight, eyes burning with a mix of anger and something darker: jealousy, desperation, obsession. The music and laughter of the Blue family hall felt distant, irrelevant, a blur behind the pounding of his pulse. He leaned forward, voice rising, sharp and accusing. "You think you can just walk away from me?" he yelled, teeth clenched. "You think I'll just let you disappear while you leave everything behind like some coward?" Noah stood still, calm, hands in his pockets, shoulders relaxed, expression neutral. He tilted his chin slightly, eyes forward. "I don't know what you mean," he said softly, deliberately underplaying it, giving nothing. Tate's fists clenched at his sides. You don't even care. You don't care about what this means, about us." Noah exhaled, the faintest shrug brushing against Tate's fury. "I care enough to walk away," he said, voice quiet, calm. "I care enough not to react." Tate let out a strangled laugh, a bark of frustration that ended in a harsh sneer. "You think that makes you strong? You think you're calm, your indifference?" "I am strong," Noah interrupted evenly, still not turning to face him. "Stronger than you realize, strong enough to keep my distance and strong enough not to let you manipulate me." Tate's eyes flared, rage coiled through him like fire. "Manipulate you?" he shouted. "I've done nothing but try to protect you. Try to." Noah's voice cut through, low, deliberate. "I slept with Maya," he said softly, almost indifferent, the words dropping like stones in a still pond. Tate froze mid-shout, his pulse hitched. The world seemed to shrink, then the anger exploded, white, hot, and uncontrollable. "What?" he bellowed, stepping forward, pressing closer, chest nearly against Noah's, fingers twitching, trembling with fury. Noah didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't give an inch. Calm, neutral, unreactive, that infuriated Tate even more. You fucked her," Tate spat, voice rising, almost breaking. "You think you can hurt me after everything?" Noah's lips pressed together lightly. "Yes, after everything. I didn't need you to be there. I didn't need your approval. I didn't need your reaction." Tate's eyes went wide, then narrowed to slits. Every muscle in his body coiled. Rage, jealousy, obsession. He could barely think and was barely able to breathe. His hands shot out, and with a force that was more instinct than thought, he pushed Noah against the wall, hard enough to knock him off balance, enough to make his calm facade a little tested. Noah's back met the cold wall. He didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just stood, eyes forward, lips neutral, body steady as a statue. Tate leaned in, forehead nearly brushing Noah's, voice low, shaking with fury. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" Noah tilted his head fractionally, still calm, still emotionless. "I do," he said softly. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm protecting myself from you, from this, from everything you think you own, from your anger, from your obsession." Tate's fingers twitched at his sides, fists clenching, then unclenching, his chest heaving with shallow, fast breaths. The calm, unflinching neutrality in Noah's face, his refusal to react, to falter, to even blink in fear or anger, was driving Tate toward the edge. It wasn't just rage, it was a kind of helpless obsession he'd never felt before. "You're impossible," Tate muttered, almost to himself, leaning closer. I can't do this. I can't control you, and it's killing me." Noah tilted his chin slightly, voice soft, quiet. "Then let it, I don't care." Tate's breath hitched. He pressed in, leaning more, but Noah didn't budge, didn't respond, didn't react. The impossibility of Noah's calm was worse than any fight, any scream, any rejection. It left Tate raw, frustrated, unmoored, desperate, and completely powerless. Noah's quiet, measured presence made the air between them thick with tension. Tate's rage simmered, jealousy burned, and yet there was nothing he could do, no words, shoves, or manipulation that would elicit a reaction. Noah's silence was absolute, neutral, unreachable. Tate finally stepped back slightly, chest heaving, eyes wild. You're insane," he muttered, voice breaking with frustration, confusion, and obsession. "You're impossible and God, I don't know what to do with you." Noah remained calm, expressionless, hands in pockets, head slightly tilted, neutral, untouchable. For a long, charged moment, the hallway seemed suspended in tension. Tate pressed his forehead to the wall, hands braced on either side of Noah, trying to hold the storm at bay. And Noah did nothing but exist, calm, unreactive, untouchable. "You think you can just ignore me?" Tate hissed, his chest pressing close to Noah's, his weight leaning forward. "You think I'll just let this, whatever this is, slide?" Noah stayed still, calm, expression neutral, eyes forward. He didn't flinch, he didn't react. That impossibility made Tate's chest tighten even more. Tate's hands shot down, guiding Noah to the hallway floor. "Stay," Tate demanded, straddling him, knees on either side, leaning down, his arms braced on the floor near Noah's shoulders. His gaze burned, searching for any crack, any reaction. Noah's calm was maddening, neutral, untouchable, unflinching. "I'm not reacting," he said softly, voice controlled. "Whatever you feel, it's yours. I'm not making you do anything." Tate's jaw clenched. The weight of his body pressing down, the proximity, the heat, and the jealousy all collided into a sharp, almost unbearable mix of hurt and obsession. "You don't get it," he growled. "You have no idea what you do to me." Noah tilted his head fractionally, still calm, still quiet. "I know exactly what I do to you, and I do it intentionally, to make you see yourself. To make you understand I don't react anymore to your selfish and immature behavior, Tate." Tate's chest rose and fell rapidly. His hands flexed on the floor, gripping the polished wood, struggling for control, for balance, for any way to make Noah respond. I can't handle this calm," he muttered, voice almost breaking. I can't read you and it's killing me." Noah's lips moved in the faintest ghost of a smile, but otherwise he remained neutral, immovable. That smile, small, controlled, teasing, cut sharper than any yell or any shove Noah ever gave Tate. Tate pressed closer, leaning down, forehead nearly brushing Noah's. "You're impossible," he whispered. I can't deal with you." Tate's chest pressed close, his weight straddling Noah on the hallway floor. The heat of his body, the proximity, the intensity, it all screamed possession, desperation, and a craving Noah had once welcomed. Tate's hand reached up, cupping the side of Noah's face gently, and he leaned in, aiming for the familiar soft place he had always kissed Noah's temple. "I just want," Tate whispered, voice low, almost pleading. Noah flinched hard. He jerked his head away, pushing against Tate's chest with all the force he could muster, eyes blazing with something he rarely allowed himself to feel, pure, unfiltered loathing. "Don't you dare," he spat, voice sharp, trembling with fury. I loathe you right now, this everything you've done, just stop." Tate froze mid-shout, his pulse hitched. The world seemed to shrink, then the anger exploded, white, hot, and uncontrollable. "What?" he bellowed, stepping forward, pressing closer, chest nearly against Noah's, fingers twitching, trembling with fury. Noah didn't flinch, didn't blink. Didn't give an inch, calm, neutral, unreactive. That infuriated Tate even more. "You fucked her," Tate spat, voice rising, almost breaking. "You think you can hurt me after everything?" Noah's lips pressed together lightly. "Yes, after everything. I didn't need you to be there. I didn't need your approval. I didn't need your reaction." Tate's eyes went wide, then narrowed to slits. Every muscle in his body coiled. Rage, jealousy, obsession. He could barely think and was barely able to breathe. His hands shot out, and with a force that was more instinct than thought, he pushed Noah against the wall, hard enough to knock him off balance, enough to make his calm facade a little tested. Noah's back met the cold wall. He didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just stood, eyes forward, lips neutral, body steady as a statue. Tate leaned in, forehead nearly brushing Noah's, voice low, shaking with fury. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" Noah tilted his head fractionally, still calm, still emotionless. "I do," he said softly. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm protecting myself from you, from this, from everything you think you own, from your obsession.